The morning light came through the window like an accusation. Thin, gray. The kind of light that shows every crack in the wall, every stain on the carpet, every failure you've tried to hide. Evelyn Frost opened her eyes to the sound she'd learned to dread. Her son's cry. Not the angry cry of a tantrum or the startled cry of a bad dream. This was different. This was hunger. She sat up slowly. The mattress on the floor creaked. No bed frame. She'd sold that 3 months ago. Got $40 for it, bought formula and diapers. Lasted 2 weeks. Finn was standing in his crib. 8 months old, too young to understand why his stomach hurt. Too young to know that his mother had counted the same pile of coins 5 times the night before, hoping the math would somehow change. It hadn't. She lifted him out, felt his weight against her chest. Still solid, still healthy, still hers. That was something. That was everything. The apartment was a single room. One window, one closet, a kitchenette that was really just a hot plate and a mini fridge. The bathroom was down the hall, shared with 3 other units. Section 8 housing in Fruitvale, the kind of place people don't put on Christmas cards. But it was a roof, for now. Evie walked to the counter. The pile of coins sat there like a monument to failure. Quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies. She'd scraped them together from the bottom of her purse, the cup holder in a friend's car, the coin return at the laundromat, every single one accounted for. $6.47. The eviction notice was taped to the inside of the door. She'd put it there so she'd see it every time she left. A reminder. 5 days. That's all she had. 5 days to come up with $800 or she and Finn would be on the street. She looked at her son. He'd stopped crying. He was looking at her with those big eyes, trusting eyes, eyes that believed she could fix anything. She wished she believed it too. 18 months ago, life had been different. Not perfect, not easy, but manageable. She'd worked as a phlebotomist at Mercy Hospital, drawing blood-running samples, making $11 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was steady. It was hers. And she'd had Garrett Ashford, construction supervisor. Strong hands, easy smile. The kind of man who made promises sound like certainties. They'd met at a coffee shop. He'd spilled his drink, she'd helped clean it up, and 4 months later, she was pregnant. He'd been happy at first, talked about marriage, about buying a house someday, about being a family. Then Finn was born. 3 weeks later, Garrett left a note on the kitchen table. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." 7 words. No phone call, no explanation, no forwarding address, just gone. The hospital had been understanding at first, maternity leave, then a gradual return, but childcare cost $1,300 a month, more than her paycheck. And Finn got sick often, ear infections, colds, the kind of things babies get, the kind of things that mean missing work. 4 months ago, the hospital cut staff, budget issues, last hired, first fired. They gave her 2 weeks' notice and a recommendation letter. She'd applied to 53 jobs since then, got 4 interviews, no offers. The employment gap, the child care conflicts, the lack of a car, the lack of references who weren't also struggling. It all added up to the same answer, no. She'd sold everything that had value. Her laptop, her grandmother's jewelry, the television, the microwave, the winter coat she'd need in 2 months. Piece by piece, her life had shrunk to what fit in this one room. And now even this room was slipping away. A knock at the door made her jump. "Evie, dear, it's Winnie." Mrs. Winifred Pruitt, 79 years old, lived in the unit next door, survived on Social Security and a pension from her late husband's factory job. She had less than Evie did, but somehow always had something to offer. Evie opened the door a crack. The old woman stood there with a small container. "Made too much oatmeal this morning. Thought maybe Finn might like some." The kindness was a knife. It hurt more than cruelty would have. Thank you, Mrs. Pruitt, but we're fine, really. Child, I can hear that baby crying through the walls. We're managing, I promise. The old woman's eyes were sad. She'd lived long enough to recognize pride, long enough to know when to push and when to retreat. If you need anything, anything at all. I know, thank you. Evie closed the door gently, leaned against it, felt the weight of her own stubbornness. Pride, that's what it was. Stupid, useless pride. The last thing she owned that she hadn't sold yet. She looked at Finn. He was gnawing on his hand. The sign that meant he was hungry, really hungry. The formula was gone. The last of it had gone into his bottle the night before. The cabinet was empty except for a jar of peanut butter and half a sleeve of crackers. The fridge held a bottle of water and a stick of butter. She'd been rationing her own food for weeks, eating once a day, sometimes less. But Finn couldn't wait. Babies don't understand rationing. She picked up her phone, looked at Garrett's number. She hadn't called it in 9 months, hadn't heard his voice, didn't know if he'd even answer. Her thumb hovered over the screen. No, she put the phone down. Some doors once closed should stay that way. She gathered the coins into a plastic bag, put Finn in the stroller she'd gotten from the Goodwill. The wheels squeaked and one of them pulled to the left, but it moved. Outside, the November air was cold. Bakersfield didn't get brutal winters, but it got cold enough. Cold enough to remind you that winter was coming and you didn't have a coat anymore. The Save Mart on Chester Avenue was 6 blocks away. She'd walked it 100 times, knew every crack in the sidewalk. Inside, the store was bright and warm. Fluorescent lights, piped-in music, the smell of rotisserie chicken from the deli. Her stomach clenched. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten meat. She went straight to the baby aisle, knew exactly which formula, store brand, the cheapest one, $9.99. She picked it up, looked at the price tag, put it back, picked it up again. The diapers were right there, $12 for a small pack. Finn was almost out, maybe 3 left. She looked at them for a long moment, then walked away. One thing at a time, the jarred baby food was on sale, 3 for $5. She picked up 1 jar, apples and sweet potato, put it back. The milk was in the dairy section. $2.49 for a half gallon. She stood there doing math in her head. $6.47 minus $9.99, negative $3.52. She closed her eyes, took a breath, opened them again. It was 7:15 on a Tuesday evening. The store was quiet, past the dinner rush, before the night shift workers came in. She got in line at register 4. The cashier was a woman in her 50s. Name tag said Jolene. Kind eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen things. There were 6 people ahead of Evie. A businessman in a suit talking loudly on his phone about some deal. An elderly couple buying cat food and bread. A teenage girl with headphones and buying energy drinks. A mother with twin boys, her cart full of groceries. A college kid with ramen and beer. Normal people, living normal lives, buying normal things. Evie waited. Finn was quiet in the stroller, looking around at all the lights and colors, still trusting, still innocent. The line moved. 1 person, 2 people, 3. The businessman was arguing about something, volume discounts, profit margins, words that belonged to a different world. 4 people. The elderly couple paid an exact change, counted out slowly, carefully. The cashier was patient. 5 people. The teenage girl didn't look up from her phone. 6 people. The mother with twins was talking to her husband. We forgot juice. Honey, can you grab juice? Then it was Evie's turn. She placed the formula on the conveyor belt. Jolene picked it up, scanned it. The beep sounded like a verdict. $9.99. Evie opened the plastic bag, started placing coins on the counter. quarters first. She'd organized them the night before, stacked them in groups of four, $1 each, then dimes, 10 to a stack, then nickels, 20 to a stack, then pennies, 50 to a stack. Jolene didn't rush her, didn't sigh, didn't roll her eyes. She just waited. When all the coins were out, Jolene began to count. She touched each coin as she moved it. Careful, methodical. The people behind Evie were getting restless. She could feel it, could hear the small saws, the shifting feet, the quiet impatience of people who had places to be. Jolene finished counting. She looked up. "Honey, you've got $6.47 here." Evie's hand started to shake. "Could you count it again?" "Please, I might have miscounted at home." There was no begging in her voice, just a broken kind of hope. Jolene counted again, slower this time, more careful. Same result. She looked at Evie with eyes that said she understood, that she'd been here too, maybe, or knew someone who had. "Sweetheart, you're short, $3.52. Behind Evie, someone sighed, loud enough to be heard, loud enough to be a statement. Evie opened her purse, empty except for a used tissue and a broken crayon. She checked her jacket pockets. Nothing. Finn started to whimper. That pre-cry sound. The sound that meant the real crying was coming. She picked him up, rocked him gently. The automatic movement every mother knows. The one that doesn't fix hunger but tries anyway. "I'm sorry," Evie said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I thought I had enough." The businessman behind her made a sound. Disgust or impatience or both. "Come on, some of us have actual appointments." The elderly couple behind him looked sympathetic but said nothing. The grandmother touched her husband's arm. He looked away. The teenage girl pulled out her phone, started scrolling. Anything to not be part of this moment. The mother with the twins pulled her children a little closer, whispered something Evie couldn't hear. Jolene's face was pained. "I wish I could help, but the manager's watching and we've got strict policies about discounts." Evie nodded. She understood. Everyone was just doing their job, following the rules. It wasn't personal. It just felt personal. "I can put it back," Evie said quietly. "I'm sorry for holding up the line." She reached for the formula can, slid it across the counter like she was sliding away her last hope. Finn's whimper turned into a cry, the hungry cry, the one that came from deep in his belly. She bounced him gently. "Shh, baby, I know, I know." Tears were forming in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying in public was a kind of nakedness she couldn't afford. The businessman muttered something under his breath, something about people these days, and get a job. Evie felt her face burn with shame. This was it. This was the bottom. Standing in a grocery store with $6.47, while her baby cried from hunger, and strangers judged her for existing. She turned to leave. That's when she heard the footsteps. Heavy boots on linoleum. The kind of sound that makes people look up. A man was walking toward the register from the back of the store. Big, over 6 feet, broad shoulders, a beard that hadn't been trimmed in weeks, tattoos running up both arms, and a leather vest, a Hell's Angels patch on the back. The entire store seemed to hold its breath. Evie's first instinct was fear. Primitive. Automatic. Big man, gang vest, sudden approach. She instinctively pulled Finn closer. The college kid behind the mother, with twins, took a step back. The businessman stopped talking on his phone. Even Jolene tensed slightly. The man stopped at the register. He didn't look at Evie at first. He looked at the formula can, then at Finn, then at the pile of coins. His face was weathered, lines around his eyes. The kind of face that had seen hard things. Then he looked at Evie. For just a second, their eyes met. She saw something there. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. Or pain. Then he turned to Jolene. His voice was deep, rough from years of cigarettes or shouting or both. But it was calm. Ring it up. Jolene blinked. Sir, the formula, ring it up. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a worn leather wallet, the kind that's been carried for decades, softened by time and use. And add those diapers she was looking at, the ones in aisle 7, and that milk, the half-gallon, and 2 jars of the baby food, the ones on sale. The entire register area had gone completely silent. Evie couldn't speak, couldn't move, could barely breathe. I don't understand, she finally managed. The man didn't look at her when he answered. He kept his eyes on Jolene. You don't need to understand, just need to let it happen. Jolene, to her credit, didn't argue. She'd worked retail long enough to recognize when something bigger than store policy was happening. She grabbed the items, scanned them one by one. The beeps sounded like miracles. Formula, beep, diapers, beep, milk, beep, baby food, beep, beep. The businessman had put his phone away. He was watching with an expression that might have been shame. The elderly couple were holding hands. The grandmother had tears in her eyes. The teenage girl had stopped scrolling. She was watching with her mouth slightly open. The mother with the twins was whispering to her husband. We could have done that. Why didn't we do that? Jolene finished scanning. $38.42. The man pulled out 2 $20 bills, placed them on the counter. Keep the change. Jolene's hands were shaking slightly as she made change. She handed him $1.58. He pushed it back toward her. I said keep it. He started bagging the items himself, careful, like they were precious. Evie finally found her voice. I can't take this. I don't even know you. The man looked at her directly for the first time since he'd started talking. His eyes were gray, tired, but kind. You're not taking from me. I'm giving to him. He nodded at Finn. A baby shouldn't go hungry because the adults in his life failed him. The words hit Evie like a physical force. But why? Her voice cracked. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. For a moment, the man's face changed. Something old and painful crossed it. Because 37 years ago, my mother stood in a store just like this one, counting change just like you were, and nobody stepped up, nobody helped. He paused. She walked home with nothing that day, and 3 days later, she died. Worked herself to death because the world wouldn't give her a hand when she needed it. The silence in the store was absolute. So yeah, he continued, I know you. I know exactly who you are. He finished bagging the items, handed the bag to Evie with both hands. Gentle, like he was handing her something fragile. Then he reached into his vest pocket, pulled out a card. You need more help, real help, not just groceries. You go here. He handed her the card. Ruth Callahan Community Center, an address on 18th Street. Tell them Bear sent you. They'll take care of you. Evie was crying now. She couldn't help it. The tears just came. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just take care of your boy. That's all the thanks I need. He started to turn away. Wait, Evie called out. What's your name? Your real name? He stopped, looked back over his shoulder. No names. Names make it complicated. Just call me what everyone calls me. Bear. How do I pay you back? You don't. You do this for someone else someday. When you can. That's how it works. And then he walked away. His footsteps echoed across the tile, getting quieter. The store door opened, the sound of a motorcycle starting, a deep rumble, then fading into the distance. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the elderly woman behind Evie spoke. Her voice was shaking. God bless that man. God bless him. The mother with the twins turned to her husband. We should have helped. We have money. We could have helped. Her husband nodded. He looked sick. The businessman put his wallet back in his pocket, didn't say anything, just stared at the floor. The teenage girl took out her phone, started to take a picture of the scene, then stopped, deleted it. Some things weren't meant to be posted. Jolene wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. In 14 years working here, I've never seen anything like that. She looked at Evie. You hold on to that card, honey, and you use it. Men like that don't come around often. When they do, you listen. Evie nodded. She couldn't speak. The bag of groceries felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, or nothing at all. She couldn't tell which. She looked down at Finn. He'd stopped crying. He was looking up at her with those trusting eyes. She'd been wrong earlier. She couldn't fix everything. But someone could. Someone did. She walked out of the store in a daze. The night air hit her face. Cold, real. She looked at the bag in her hand. Formula, diapers, milk, baby food. A week's worth of survival. Maybe more if she was careful. She looked at the card. Ruth Callahan Community Center. A stranger had given her $50, but this card might be worth more. The bus stop was a block away. She sat on the bench, held Finn close. An older woman sitting there smiled at her. Your baby's beautiful. Thank you. You okay, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost. Evie let out a breath that was half laugh, half sob. I think I just saw an angel. The bus came. She got on, found a seat near the back. Through the window, she watched the city pass by. The same street she'd walked 1,000 times. But everything looked different now. At her apartment, she made a bottle right away. Finn drank it like he'd been waiting his whole life for it. She sat on the floor with him. No furniture, no decorations, nothing but a mattress and a crib and a few bags of clothes. But now she had food and diapers and something else. Hope. She looked at the community center card for a long time, turned it over in her hands. Finally, she pulled out her phone, searched the name. The website was simple. Photos of people, testimonials. This place saved my life. I came here with nothing. Now I have a bone and an apartment. They didn't just give me food, they gave me a future. Programs listed job training, child care assistance, food pantry, counseling, resume help, interview preparation. Hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. She looked at the clock. 9:30 p.m. tomorrow. She'd go tomorrow. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear. She picked up Finn, held him close. We're going to be okay, she whispered. I don't know how yet, but we're going to be okay. She put him in his crib. He was already falling asleep. Full belly, safe, loved. She lay down on the mattress, stared at the ceiling. In her mind, she kept replaying it. The heavy boots, the gray eyes, the rough voice. Because 37 years ago, my mother stood in a store just like this one. He'd been that child, the one whose mother couldn't buy food, the one who'd watched the world look away. And instead of becoming bitter, he'd become the help he wished had existed. She didn't know his real name, didn't know where he lived or what he did when he wasn't rescuing single mothers in grocery stores. But she knew one thing. He'd saved her life tonight. And someday, somehow, she'd do the same for someone else. That's what he'd said. You do this for someone else someday. It seemed impossible now. She had nothing, was nothing. A broke single mother living in a room with no furniture, facing eviction in 5 days. But he'd seen something in her, something worth saving. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was worth it. She fell asleep thinking about gray eyes and heavy boots and the sound of a motorcycle fading into the night. Across town in a converted warehouse that served as the Hells Angels clubhouse, Marcus Bear Caldwell sat on his bike in the parking lot. He wasn't ready to go inside yet. His hands were still shaking slightly. It had been 37 years since that day in the grocery store. 37 years since he'd watched his mother count change and come up short. 37 years since they'd walked home with nothing. She'd cried that night. the only time he had ever seen her cry. 3 days later, she'd had a heart attack at her third job, died in the ambulance before they got her to the hospital. The doctor said it was exhaustion, overwork, stress. Bear knew better. She'd died because the world had let her fall through the cracks, because nobody stepped up when it mattered. He'd been angry for years, angry at the world, angry at the people who'd looked away, angry at a system that punished poverty and rewarded indifference. He joined the Hells Angels at 19, looking for family, for brotherhood, for something solid in a world that felt like quicksand. He'd found it. The club had given him purpose, given him brothers who'd die for him. But it hadn't given him peace. Peace came later, years later, when he'd started volunteering at the community center, when he'd started helping people who reminded him of his mother. Every single mother he helped, he was helping her. Every hungry child he fed, he was feeding the boy he had been. It didn't bring her back, didn't change the past, but it changed him. The door to the clubhouse opened. Hank Hammer Doyle stepped out, 60 years old, club president, veteran of the Korean War, built like a tank and twice as tough. He walked over to Bear's bike. "You're late for the meeting." "I know." "Where were you?" Bear didn't answer right away. Hank knew him well enough to wait. "There was a woman at the grocery store, young, maybe 30, had a baby, couldn't afford formula." Hank nodded slowly. He knew Bear's story. They all did. "You helped her?" "Yeah." "Good." They stood in silence for a moment. "You know," Hank said, "the club voted last month. We're increasing community service hours. All members. Mandatory." Bear looked up surprised. "Why?" Hank shrugged. "We're getting old, brother. All of us. And we're starting to think about what we leave behind. Used to be we wanted people to fear us. Now we want them to remember us different." He put a hand on Bear's shoulder. "You've been doing this for years, helping people, volunteering. We're just catching up to where you've been all along. It's not about credit, Hank." "I know. That's why you're the right man to coordinate it." Bear shook his head. "I just help where I can." "Exactly, and now you'll help the rest of us do the same." Hank headed back toward the clubhouse, stopped at the door. "Your mama would be proud, Bear. You became the man she couldn't be there to see, but she'd be proud." He went inside. Bear sat there for another 10 minutes. Then he went in. The meeting was the usual business: upcoming rides, maintenance schedules, club finances. But at the end, Hank made an announcement. Starting next month, every member puts in 10 hours a month at community service. Youth programs, food banks, whatever needs doing. Bear's going to coordinate it. There were some grumbles, not everyone was thrilled, but nobody voted against it. After the meeting, a younger member named Reese pulled Bear aside. "You really think we can make a difference, bunch of bikers playing social workers?" Bear thought about Evie, about her shaking hands, about her son's hungry cry, about the look on her face when she realized someone actually cared. "Yeah," he said, "I do." At home that night, Bear lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his mother, Rebecca Caldwell, dead at 39, worked 3 jobs, and it still wasn't enough. He thought about the grocery store, the people who'd looked away. He thought about Evie, about her trying to hide her tears, about her pride and her desperation. He thought about her son, Finn, 8 months old, innocent, deserving of a chance. Tomorrow, Evie would go to the community center. Ruth would help her, give her the tools to stand up. And maybe, just maybe, she'd be okay. He hoped so, because every time he helped someone, he was rewriting history. He was creating the world he wished had existed when he was 11 years old and hungry and watching his mother cry. It wouldn't bring her back, but it meant she hadn't died for nothing. It meant the pain had purpose, and sometimes that was enough. He fell asleep thinking about worn hands and heavy boots and the sound of a baby's cry turning into contentment. At the Save Mart, Jolene Harper finished her shift at 11 p.m. She'd told the story 3 times already. to the assistant manager, to the night shift supervisor, to her coworker who'd missed the whole thing. Each time she cried a little. At home, she told her husband, Raymond. Raymond was a retired firefighter, 61 years old, seen a lot in his 30 years on the job, thought he'd seen everything, but this story got him. You're telling me a Hell's Angel bought formula for a complete stranger? Not just formula, diapers, food, milk, $50 worth. Did you get his name? He wouldn't say, just told her to call him Bear. Raymond sat back in his chair. You know, people talk about that club like they're all criminals. Maybe some are. But that man tonight, that was a good man. He pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Jolene asked. Posting about it on the neighborhood group. People need to hear stories like this. Don't use names. That woman, she looked like she wanted to disappear. No names, just a story. He typed carefully, his big firefighter hands slow on the small keyboard. Tonight at Save Mart, I witnessed something that restored my faith in humanity. A young mother couldn't afford baby formula. She was counting change coming up short. A stranger stepped up, paid for everything, didn't want thanks, didn't want credit, just wanted to help. If you're that stranger, thank you. If you're struggling like that, mother, know that there are still good people out there. We see you, you matter. He posted it. Within an hour, it had 50 shares. By morning, 600. By the next evening, 2,000. The story was spreading. Not because it was dramatic, not because it was unusual, but because it was exactly what people needed to hear. In a world that felt cold and divided and cruel, here was proof that kindness still existed, that strangers still cared, that hope wasn't dead. The comments poured in. This made me cry. We need more people like this. I'm going to pay for someone's groceries this week. Beautiful. Whoever that man is, he's a hero. But the one comment that mattered most came 3 days later, from a woman who didn't leave her name. Just 8 words. I was that mother. I'll never forget. The morning after the grocery store, Evie woke up before dawn. She hadn't set an alarm. Her body just knew. This was the day everything could change, or the day nothing would. She fed Finn the formula Bear had bought, watched him drink it. Every ounce felt like borrowed time, borrowed hope. The community center didn't open until 8. It was 6:30. She got ready anyway. The only clean clothes she had left, jeans with a hole in the knees she tried to sew shut, a sweater that had been her mother's, 10 years old but still decent. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror down the hall, shared with 3 other units. Someone had left hair in the sink, dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones too prominent, hair that needed cutting. She looked like what she was, desperate. The bus ride took 20 minutes. Finn in the stroller, the wheels still squeaking. 18th Street was in a different part of town. Not better, not worse, just different. Industrial buildings converted to other uses. A coffee shop that used to be a garage. A yoga studio that used to be a warehouse. And a church. Red brick, built in the 1940s, maybe earlier. White trim around the windows. A small steeple with a cross on top. The sign out front said Ruth Callahan Community Center in simple black letters. Evie stood outside for 5 minutes before going in. The door was heavy, wooden. It creaked when she pushed it open. Inside, the space was bigger than it looked from the street. The pews had been removed. In their place, folding tables and chairs. A reception desk where the altar used to be. The stained glass windows still there, casting colored light across the floor. It smelled like coffee and old books and something else. Something harder to name. Hope, maybe. Or the memory of it. A woman sat at the reception desk. She looked up when Evie entered, 60-something, white hair pulled back in a practical bun, reading glasses on a chain around her neck, a sweater with a coffee stain on the sleeve. Kind eyes, the kind that had seen hard things and chosen to stay kind anyway. Good morning, dear. You must be the one Bear mentioned. Evie stopped. He called you last night around 9. Said a young mother might come by. Said to take good care of her. The woman stood, extended her hand. I'm Ruth Callahan. This is my center. Well, it belongs to everyone who needs it, really. But I run it. Her handshake was firm, warm. Evelyn Frost. Everyone calls me Evie. And this handsome young man, Finn, he's 8 months. Ruth came around the desk, bent down to look at Finn properly, smiled at him. He smiled back. He's beautiful. You're doing a good job, Evie. I can see it in his eyes. Loved babies have a certain look. Something in Evie's chest cracked. She hadn't heard that in so long, that she was doing a good job. Would you like a tour? Evie nodded, couldn't trust her voice. Ruth led her through the building. Each room a revelation. The food pantry, shelves organized by category, canned goods, pasta, rice, baby formula, diapers. People could take what they needed. No questions, no judgment. The clothing exchange, racks of donated clothes, clean, sorted by size, a separate section for children's clothes, shoes lined up underneath, the computer lab, 8 workstations, older models but functional, free internet, free printing, the child care room, bright, painted yellow, toys on shelves, a reading corner, small tables and chairs, a changing table, a crib. We provide childcare during classes and job training, Ruth explained. Can't expect people to better their situations if they can't afford to keep their children safe while they do it. The training classroom, desks arranged in rows, a whiteboard at the front, a projector, stacks of workbooks. We run an 8-week program, office skills, resume building, interview techniques, computer literacy. It's basic, but it's a start. And finally, Ruth's office, cluttered but organized, files everywhere, photos on the walls, dozens of photos, maybe 100. Our success stories, Ruth said quietly. Evie looked at them, face after face, names underneath, brief captions. Maria started with us in 2019, now works as a medical assistant. Jonathan came to us homeless, now has his own apartment and a job in construction. Patricia, single mother of 3, graduated our program, now works in accounting. Story after story, proof that change was possible. Ruth pointed to one photo in the corner, black and white, faded. A young woman, maybe 25, holding a baby, standing outside a building Evie didn't recognize. Who's that? Ruth was quiet for a moment. That's me, 37 years ago. Evie looked closer. The woman in the photo looked tired, scared, holding her baby like it was the only thing keeping her from floating away. I was a single mother. My husband left when our daughter was 6 months old. I had no education past high school, no job skills, no family to help. She sat down at her desk, gestured for Evie to sit across from her. I lived on welfare for 2 years, food stamps, Section 8 housing, the whole thing. And I hated it, not because I was proud, but because I knew my daughter deserved better. What did you do? Someone help me. A social worker who saw something in me I didn't see in myself. She got me into a training program, helped me get my GED, then community college, then a degree in social work. Ruth smiled. Took me 10 years, working part-time, raising my daughter, but I did it. Where is she now? Your daughter. Seattle. She's a lawyer, has 2 kids of her own, visits every Christmas. Ruth leaned forward. I opened this center 12 years ago because I remember what it felt like to need help and not know where to find it. I remember the shame, the fear, the feeling like you're drowning and everyone's watching from the shore. She looked directly at Evie. You're not drowning, you're swimming, and I'm throwing you a rope. The question is whether you'll grab it. Evie felt tears coming again. She was so tired of crying. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You're here, aren't you? You got on a bus at 7 in the morning with a baby and came to ask for help. That takes more strength than most people have. Ruth pulled out a form, started filling it in. Here's what we're going to do. Today you're going to take a food package, enough for a week. You're going to apply for our emergency rent assistance program. It's not guaranteed, but we'll try. And you're going to enroll in our next training session. It starts Monday. I can't afford childcare. It's included. Finn stays with Mrs. Henderson in the childcare room while you're in class. She's been doing this for 20 years. Your boy will be safe. What if I fail? Then you try again. That's how it works here. We don't give up on people. Ever. Evie took the form. Her hands were shaking. Why are you doing this? Ruth smiled. Because someone did it for me. And someday when you can, you'll do it for someone else. That's the only rule here. What you receive, you eventually give. Not to me, to whoever comes after you. They spent the next hour on paperwork, background, situation, needs, goals. It was invasive, uncomfortable. But Ruth asked every question with such gentleness that it felt less like an interrogation and more like someone actually caring about the answers. When they finished, Ruth walked Evie to the food pantry, helped her fill a box, canned vegetables, pasta, sauce, peanut butter, bread, formula, diapers, wipes, more than Evie had seen in one place in months. This will hold you for a week. Come back next Tuesday. We'll have your first class then. Evie was loading the box into the stroller when she heard a sound from the back of the building. Metal clanging, tools. What's that? Oh, that's Bear. He volunteers here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Does maintenance. Fixes things that break. He's here now. Want to say hello. Evie wasn't sure. Part of her wanted to thank him again. Part of her wanted to run away. She followed Ruth to the back parking lot. A van sat with the hood up, tools spread out on the ground, and underneath the van, on a rolling board, a pair of boots. Bear's boots, Ruth called out. Bear, someone here to see you. The board slid out. Bear looked up, saw Evie. Recognition crossed his face. He stood up, wiped his hands on a rag. You came. You told me to. I know, but people don't always do what they should. They stood there awkwardly. Ruth excused herself, went back inside. I wanted to thank you again, Evie said, for last night. I don't know what I would have done. You would have figured something out. People always do. I don't think so. Not this time. Bear looked at Finn. How's he doing? Better. The formula helped. Everything helped. Ruth taking care of you. She's amazing. She is. Best person I know. Silence, the kind that's not quite comfortable, but not quite uncomfortable either. Can I ask you something? Evie finally said. Yeah. Why did you really help me? And don't say it's because of your mother. I mean, I believe you, but there's something else, isn't there? Bear was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down on the edge of the van's bumper, gestured for Evie to sit too. She did. When my mother died, I was 16. I went into foster care for 2 years. Then I aged out, ended up on the streets. Angry, lost, figured the world owed me something. He looked at his hands, scarred, calloused. I joined the Hells Angels when I was 19, looking for family. Found it too. But I was still angry, still felt like I was owed something. What changed? Time, age, seeing people worse off than me, realizing that being angry wasn't bringing her back. He looked at Evie. About 10 years ago, I started volunteering here. Ruth needed someone to fix things. I needed something to fix in myself. Seemed like a fair trade. And it helped. Yeah, it turns out helping people is the only thing that actually makes you feel better. Who knew? He smiled slightly. It transformed his face, made him look younger. You're going to be okay, he said. I can tell. How? Because you showed up. That's half the battle right there. Evie wanted to believe him. The weeks that followed were harder than anything Evie had expected. The training program met Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 to 3. 6 hours of trying to absorb information while her brain felt like it was operating on fumes. The first day was computer basics, things other people had learned in high school, things Evie had forgotten during 2 years of survival mode: how to use Microsoft Word, how to create a spreadsheet, how to send a professional email. The instructor was a woman named Pauline Voss, 55, patient, a former corporate trainer who now volunteered her time. Evie sat in the back row, tried to take notes, got lost within the first hour. After class, Pauline pulled her aside. "You're struggling." It wasn't a question. "I'm sorry, I'm trying. I just can't seem to keep up." "How much sleep are you getting?" Evie laughed. It came out bitter. "Maybe 4 hours, on a good night." "When's the last time you ate a full meal?" Evie couldn't remember. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to start coming in 30 minutes early. We'll go over the previous lesson, just you and me, and you're going to start using the food pantry more. You can't learn on an empty stomach. I already took food this week, so take more. That's what it's there for." Week 2 was slightly better. The material started to click. Muscle memory from her old job coming back. She made friends, or at least she sat near the same people. Bryn Wilder, 23, baby daughter named Lily. Same desperate eyes Evie saw in the mirror. They bonded over shared exhaustion, shared fear, shared hope that this might actually work. Tessa Brennan, 38, 3 kids, escaping a violent marriage. Bruises fading but still visible on her arms. They didn't talk about their past much, didn't need to. The pasts were written on their faces. Week 3 brought the first real test: mock interviews. Evie put on the only nice shirt she owned, borrowed from the clothing exchange, sat across from Pauline and tried to remember how to sound confident. "Tell me about yourself." "I'm Evelyn Frost. I worked as a phlebotomist for 2 years before I had my son. I'm a hard worker. I'm reliable. I learn quickly." "Why should I hire you?" That one was harder. Why should anyone hire her? A woman with an employment gap, a baby, no car, no references, who weren't also struggling. "Because I need this more than anyone else you'll interview." Pauline stopped, looked at her. "That's honest, but it's not what they want to hear." What do they want to hear? That you'll make their company better, that you'll solve their problems, that you're not a risk. "But I am a risk. We all are." "Then you make them believe you're worth the risk." They practiced for an hour. Evie learned to lie, not big lies, small ones, strategic ones. Yes, she could work evenings. Yes, she had reliable childcare. Yes, she had transportation. All lies, but necessary ones. Week 4 brought resume writing. Evie stared at the blank template, tried to make her life sound like it had value. Experienced phlebotomist, Mercy Hospital, 2022 to 2024. Education, high school diploma. Skills, blood draw. Patient care. Data entry. It looks so small on paper. 2 years of work. 18 months of survival. Reduced to 3 lines. Pauline reviewed it, made suggestions. Add volunteer experience. "I don't have any volunteer experience." "You help at the food pantry on Thursdays now, don't you?" "I'm just sorting cans." Food pantry volunteer. Inventory management and organization. There, that's a skill. By week 8, Evie had a resume, references, a basic understanding of office software, and something that felt like confidence. Not real confidence. Not yet. But the performance of it, which was sometimes enough. The day the program ended, Ruth called her into the office. "How do you feel?" Terrified, hopeful, both at the same time. "Good. That means you're ready?" Ruth slid a paper across the desk. We have a position opening up. Part-time receptionist, 24 hours a week, $12.50 an hour, answering phones, filing, scheduling, nothing glamorous. Evie stared at the paper. You're offering me a job. If you want it. I don't understand. Why me? Ruth smiled. Because I've been watching you for 8 weeks. You show up on time. You help the other students. You organize the filing system in your spare time without being asked. You're exactly what this place needs. When would I start? Monday. Evie did the math in her head. 24 hours at $12.50, $300 a week, $1,200 a month. Not enough for an apartment in a better neighborhood. Not enough for a car. Not enough for savings. But enough for rent, for formula, for bus fare, for survival. It was more than she'd had in 4 months. Yes, she said. Yes, thank you, yes. Her first paycheck came 2 weeks later. $600. She cashed it at the check cashing place. They took 3%. She didn't care. She went into the bathroom at the center, locked the door, and cried. Not sad crying, not desperate crying, relief, pure overwhelming relief. She'd made it. Not all the way, not even close. But she'd made it this far. She took a photo of the pay stub, didn't post it anywhere, just wanted proof it was real. That night she bought dinner. Real dinner. Chicken, rice, vegetables. Cooked it in the hot plate in her room. It tasted like victory, but victory was short-lived. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice came back. The Emergency Rent Assistance Program had denied her application. Wrong form filed. Bureaucratic error. Try again next month. Next month it would be too late. The landlord was done being patient. Gordon Mitchell. Not a bad man, just a businessman. He had bills too. I'm sorry, Ms. Frost, but I have to enforce this. You've got until the 15th. Then I have to change the locks. The 15th was 5 days away. Evie sat on her mattress and did the math. Rent was $800. She had $400 saved, $200 from her paychecks, $200 from cutting every expense to nothing. $400 short. She could ask Ruth, but Ruth had already done so much. She could ask Bryn or Tessa, but they had nothing. She could call Garrett, his number still in her phone, taunting her. She stared at it for an hour, then she put the phone down. Some doors stayed closed. She started packing. Trash bags. Everything she owned fit in 4 bags. Bryn found out the next day, saw Evie packing after work. What are you doing? Getting evicted. Friday. Where will you go? I don't know yet. Maybe a shelter. Maybe my car. You don't have a car. Then a shelter. Bryn was quiet for a moment. My place is tiny. I mean really tiny. 250 square feet. But I have a couch. You and Finn can stay until you figure something out. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. When I first got here, someone let me sleep on their floor. Now I'm paying it forward. Evie wanted to argue, wanted to say no, wanted to maintain some shred of dignity. But dignity didn't keep Finn fed. Okay, thank you. I'll pay you back. Just help the next person. That's payment enough. Friday came. Evie gave Gordon her key, loaded her 4 trash bags onto Bryn's couch. That night, sleeping in someone else's space, listening to Finn breathe and Bryn's daughter Lily snore softly, Evie felt the weight of her failure. She'd been doing so well, had a job, had a plan, had hope, and still it wasn't enough. On Monday morning, there was an envelope at the reception desk, addressed to Evelyn Frost. Inside a money order, $850. No name, no note, just the money order. Evie stared at it. Ruth, did you see who left this? Ruth came over, looked at the envelope. No idea. Was here when I opened up this morning. Evie knew. Somewhere deep down she knew. Bare, but she couldn't prove it. and something told her he wouldn't want her to try. She took the money order to Gordon, paid rent, got a 2-month extension while she saved. That evening, she saw Bear in the parking lot, working on the van again. She walked over. Bear, he looked up. Did you leave something on the reception desk this morning? Not that I recall. An envelope with money. Lots of people donate to the center. This was addressed to me. Was it that strange? He went back to the van. Evie stood there, knowing, unable to say it. Thank you, she finally whispered. For what? For being who you are. He didn't answer, just kept working, but she saw the smallest smile. By month 3, things had stabilized. Ruth promoted her to assistant program coordinator. $15 an hour, 35 hours a week, health insurance. Real, actual health insurance. Evie could afford her room now, could save a little. Not much. $50 a month, but something. She started looking at apartments. Nothing fancy. Just 1 bedroom. Safe neighborhood. Working heat. It felt like a dream. A possible dream. And then the story broke. Raymond's Facebook post had been spreading slowly. 2,000 shares. 5,000. 10,000. A local TV station picked it up. KBAC News reporter Jennifer Hayes did a piece. Mystery biker's act of kindness goes viral. They interviewed Jolene, showed the surveillance footage, grainy, faces unclear, but the moment captured. Big man in leather vest, small woman with baby, money on counter. The story hit regional news, then national. Good Morning America mentioned it. CNN ran a segment. In a world of division, one act of kindness reminds us of our shared humanity. The Hells Angels Club started getting calls, donations, people wanting to support bikers who care. Hank Doyle, the club president, was baffled. We've been doing community service for 6 months and nobody noticed. One grocery store moment and we're heroes. He called a meeting, decided to donate every dollar they received to Ruth's Center. $12,000. Ruth nearly fainted when she got the check. But the attention had a cost. People started showing up at the center, asking questions, looking for the mother from the video. Reporters, bloggers, people with cameras and microphones and invasion disguised as interest. Evie hid, came in through the back door, wore sunglasses, kept her head down. Jennifer Hayes tracked her down anyway, found her in the parking lot one evening. Evelyn Frost. Evie's heart stopped. I don't talk to press. I understand, but people are inspired by your story. An interview could help others in your situation. My situation isn't a story, it's my life. Exactly, and your life could give hope to people who need it. Evie got in her car, an old Honda Civic she'd bought for $3,000. Saved for 3 months. Please leave me alone. That night she talked to Ruth. What should I do? What feels right to you? Not what helps the center, not what inspires strangers. What protects you and Finn? Evie thought about it, really thought about it. I don't want to be famous. I don't want people knowing my face. I don't want Finn growing up as that baby from the news. Then don't do it. But what if I could help people? You already are, every day, right here. Evie wrote a statement. Ruth released it through the center's social media. I am grateful for the kindness I received. I'm now working to stand on my own feet and hope to help others in the future. I ask that my privacy be respected as I focus on rebuilding my life for my son. Most media respected it. The story faded, moved on to the next viral moment. But the impact remained. Donations kept coming to the center. Small amounts, $5, $10, $20. People who'd been inspired, who wanted to help. Ruth used every penny wisely, expanded the food pantry, added a job placement program, hired another childcare worker. And in the middle of all of it, Evie worked, learned, grew. 6 months after the grocery store, she barely recognized herself. She had an apartment, a car, a home, stability. Finn was thriving, walking now, laughing, curious about everything. One evening, Bryn showed up at the center in tears. Her boyfriend had been arrested. DUI, third offense, jail time. She lost the apartment, his name on the lease. Everything she owned was in her car. Evie saw her in the parking lot, saw herself 6 months earlier. She didn't hesitate. You're staying with me, not asking, telling. I can't. You can. My couch is yours until you get back on your feet. Evie, I don't have any money. I can't pay rent. I didn't ask you to. Just help with groceries when you can. And when you're stable, you help someone else. That's the deal. Bryn cried, hugged her. Thank you. God, thank you. That night, helping Bryn set up on her couch, Evie realized something. She was using Bear's words, Ruth's words, the same phrases that had been used on her. It's not charity, it's a hand up. You're beginning a new chapter. Accepting help is strength, not weakness. She'd become the helper. The circle was continuing. Later that night, after Bryn and Lily were asleep, Evie stepped outside. Needed air, needed to think. Bear's motorcycle was parked across the street. He was sitting on it, not going anywhere, just sitting. She walked over. Were you waiting for me? Saw Bryn's car loaded up, figured you'd take her in. How did you know? Because you're you. They sat in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something, Evie said. Yeah. Does it ever stop the fear that it could all fall apart again? Bear thought about it. No, but it gets quieter and you learn to trust yourself more. I helped someone today, really helped. Not just sorting cans or filing papers, actually made a difference. How'd it feel? Evie smiled. Like maybe I'm worth something after all. You always were. You just couldn't see it. He started his bike. The engine rumbled to life. Where are you going? Home, got an early day tomorrow. Bear, he looked back. Thank you for everything, for seeing me when I was invisible. He shook his head. You were never invisible, Evie. You just needed someone to look. He rode off into the night, the sound fading. Evie stood there for a long time. 6 months ago, she'd had $6.47. A hungry baby, no hope. Now she had an apartment, a car, and the ability to help someone else. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, and the fear was still there. But she was standing on her own feet, and that was everything. 7 months after the grocery store, Evie arrived at work to find Ruth sitting at her desk with her head in her hands, not working, not typing, not doing anything, just sitting there, defeated. Evie had never seen Ruth look defeated. Ruth, the older woman, looked up. Her eyes were red. We got the letter this morning. State budget cuts. They're pulling our grant. How much? $42,000, 55% of our operating budget. The words hung in the air like smoke. Can we make it up somehow? Ruth shook her head. Not in time. We've got 3 months of reserves. After that, we'll have to close. Evie felt the floor tilt. This place, this center, the thing that had saved her life, that was saving dozens of lives right now, gone. There has to be something we can do. I've been running this center for 12 years. I've seen budget cuts before, but nothing like this. The state's broke. Social services are the first thing they slash. Ruth's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you just got stable. I know you're counting on this job. I'm sorry. Evie sat down hard in the chair across from the desk. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Other staff arriving. Pauline, Mrs. Henderson, 2 part-time counselors. Ruth called an emergency meeting. They gathered in the training classroom. 8 people. 8 people who dedicated their lives to helping others. Ruth delivered the news. Simple, direct, devastating. When she finished, there was silence. Then Pauline spoke. We could do fundraising, a big campaign. We'd need to raise 40,000 in 3 months. That's more than we've raised in 12 years combined. What about the city, county, federal grants? All dried up. Everyone's cutting. Mrs. Henderson, who'd worked childcare for 20 years, started crying. Those babies, where will they go? Tessa, who now worked part-time as an intake coordinator, said what everyone was thinking. Where will any of us go? Evie listened to them spiral, watched hope drain from the room, and something in her shifted. This place had saved her. Ruth had saved her. Bear had saved her. Now it was her turn. She stood up. We're not giving up. Everyone looked at her. We can't, she continued. This place matters. It's not just a building. It's not just programs. It's the difference between people making it and people falling through the cracks. Evie, I appreciate the sentiment, but no, listen. 7 months ago, I was counting change in a grocery store. I had nothing. I was nobody. This center gave me everything. Not just food, not just job training, purpose, dignity, hope. She looked around the room. How many people have we helped this year, 60, 70? And how many of them have kids? How many of them are one crisis away from losing everything? Pauline nodded. At least 100 people touch this building every month. So we tell them. We tell them what's happening. We ask for help, not from the government, from the community. Ruth looked skeptical. Grassroots fundraising takes time, organization, marketing skills. I have marketing skills. I learned them here. And I have time. We all do. Because if this place closes, we don't have jobs anyway. Silence. Then Tessa spoke up. I'm in. What do you need? Me too, said Pauline. Mrs. Henderson wiped her eyes. Count me in. One by one, they committed. Ruth looked at Evie with something like wonder. All right, what's the plan? That night, Evie sat at her kitchen table. Bryn was at work. Lily and Finn were asleep. The apartment was quiet. She opened her laptop, the one she'd bought used for $200, started typing. First a Facebook page. Save Ruth Callahan Community Center. Then the story, her story. The first time she'd told it publicly, she wrote for 2 hours, deleted it, started over, wrote for 2 more hours. Finally, she had something. Not perfect, but true. My name is Evelyn Frost. 8 months ago, I stood in a grocery store with $6.47 trying to buy formula for my baby. I didn't have enough money. I was about to leave with nothing when a stranger stepped up. He paid for my groceries. He gave me a card for this place, Ruth Callahan Community Center. I almost didn't come. Pride, fear, shame, all the things that keep people drowning when help is right there. But I came, and this center gave me everything. They gave me food, job training, childcare while I learned, a job when I graduated. More than that, they gave me hope. They showed me I was worth saving. Now the state is cutting funding. This place has 3 months before it has to close. 60 families currently in programs will have nowhere to go. Hundreds more who would have found help will fall through the cracks. We can't let that happen. I'm asking for help, not from the government, from you. $5, $10, whatever you can spare. If 100 people give $10, that's $1,000. If 1,000 people give $10, that's 10,000. This place taught me that we're not alone, that community matters, that strangers can save your life. Now I'm asking you to save this place, not for me, for the next mother who walks in with nothing, for her baby, for the next person who needs to know they're worth saving. Please share this. Please give if you can. Please help us keep the doors open. Thank you. Evelyn Frost. She attached a photo, her first day at the center, holding Finn, looking terrified but hopeful. She posted it at 11 p.m. By midnight, it had 50 shares. By morning, 500. By noon the next day, 2,000. The donations started coming in. $10, $5, $20, $50. Small amounts from ordinary people. A comment appeared. This made me cry. Shared. Another. My sister was in this situation, sending what I can. Another. This is what community looks like. The local news picked it up. Jennifer Hayes, the reporter who tried to interview Evie before called. This time Evie answered, I'll do an interview, but on my terms. You focus on the center, not on me, not on Bear, on what this place does and why it matters. Deal. The segment aired that evening, 3 minutes. Evie talking about the programs, Ruth talking about the mission, shots of the food pantry, the childcare room, the training classroom. The donations doubled. $5,000 in a week, $10,000 in 2 weeks. Local businesses started calling. An auto shop donated $2,000. Save Mart, the grocery store where it all started, donated $5,000. And then the Hells Angels clubhouse called. Hank Doyle himself. We're voting tonight on a donation, but I wanted to give you a heads up. It's going to be substantial. How substantial? $8,000. Evie nearly dropped the phone. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Bear's one of ours. What matters to him matters to us. And that center matters to him. The check arrived the next day, delivered by Bear himself. He walked into the center in full club regalia, leather vest, patches, boots, handed the check to Ruth. From the Brotherhood, Ruth cried, actually cried. This is too much. It's exactly enough. You've been helping our community for 12 years. Time we return the favor. He looked at Evie, something in his eyes, pride maybe, or recognition. You did good, kid. I learned from you. Nah, this was all you. By the end of month 8, they'd raised $78,000. More than they needed, more than they dreamed. Ruth called another meeting, everyone crying. Happy crying this time. We're not just saved, we're funded for 2 years and we can expand. Add programs, hire more staff. She looked at Evie. I'm recommending you for a new position. Program director. You'd oversee all the training programs, $42,000 a year, full benefits. Evie couldn't speak. $42,000 a year. More money than she'd ever imagined making. I don't have the experience. You have the only experience that matters. You've lived it. You know what these people need because you needed it. You're perfect for this. The board voted, unanimous. Evie became program director on her 28th birthday, but the real moment came 2 weeks later. 9 months after the grocery store, Evie was doing her weekly shopping and at Save Mart. A routine now, not a crisis. Finn was 17 months old, walking, talking a little, healthy, happy. Her cart had real groceries, chicken, fresh vegetables, fruit, formula still, but also whole milk now, diapers, baby snacks, and food for herself, real food. She could afford it all, without counting pennies, without anxiety. It felt like a different life, because it was. Jolene was working register 4. She saw Evie and smiled. Look at you, doing great. Thanks to a lot of people. Mostly thanks to you. Evie paid. Card, not cash. Had a bank account now, with money in it. She was loading bags into her cart when she heard it, a sound she knew too well. At the next register, a young woman, early 20s, blonde hair pulled back, too thin, frightened eyes, and coins on the counter. The cashier, a young guy impatient. Ma'am, you're $4.25 short. The woman's hands were shaking, a baby in her arms, maybe 6 months old, crying. That specific cry, the hungry cry. Time slowed. Evie watched the woman count the coins again, hopeful, desperate. Watched the cashier recount. Same result. Watched the woman start to cry. Please, can you count one more time? Watched people in line behind her shift uncomfortably. Look away. The businessman on his phone. The elderly couple pretending not to see, the mother with children pulling them closer. History repeating itself. Evie's body moved before her mind decided. She walked to that register, reached into her purse, pulled out a 20, placed it on the counter. Add this to her total. The young woman looked up, shocked. What? Whatever she needs. Formula, diapers, food. Get it all. The cashier looked confused. Are you sure? I'm sure. Add whatever else she needs for her baby. Evie turned to the woman, saw herself 9 months ago. What does she need, your daughter? I can't. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. What does she, nah. The woman was crying now. Diapers, and I haven't eaten in 2 days, and I'm breastfeeding, so she's not getting enough, and get her milk too, and bread, peanut butter, whatever she needs. Evie helped her select items, diapers, formula as backup, milk, bread, peanut butter, eggs, bananas. The cashier rang it up, $36.80. Evie handed over another 20. Keep the change. The woman couldn't stop crying. Why, you don't even know me? Evie pulled a card from her purse. Ruth Callahan Community Center. Because 9 months ago, someone did this for me. I had $6.47 and a hungry baby. A stranger paid for my groceries. Changed my life. She handed the woman the card. Go here tomorrow morning. Ask for Evelyn Frost. That's me. We'll help you get on your feet. The woman clutched the card like a lifeline. I don't understand. You don't have to. Just go. Let us help. And someday when you can, you help someone else. That's how it works. She showed the woman her phone, a photo, her Finbear and Ruth at the community center. This is my family now. We take care of each other. Let us take care of you. The woman nodded, couldn't speak, just nodded. Evie bagged the groceries herself, handed them over gently. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., we'll be waiting. She walked away, back to her own cart, back to Finn. Behind her, she heard applause, soft at first, then louder. The elderly couple, the mother with children, even the businessman had put his phone down. Someone said that was beautiful. Someone else said, why don't we do that more often? Jolene was crying at her register. She'd seen it happen twice now. The circle completing itself. Evie left quickly, didn't want the attention, didn't need the thanks. Outside in the parking lot, she loaded groceries into her Honda. Bear's motorcycle was parked 3 spaces away. He was sitting on it, had been watching through the window. She walked over. How long have you been here? Long enough. You saw, yeah. They stood in silence. How does it feel, he asked. Like maybe I understand now. Why you did it, it's not about the money, it's about seeing someone and choosing not to look away. Yeah, that's exactly it. Your mother would be proud of you. Bear smiled. Yours too. Evie's parents had died in a car accident when she was 19. She rarely talked about them. But Bear knew. Everyone at the center knew everyone's story. You think she saw just now? I think wherever she is, she's smiling. Bear started his bike. The engine rumbled. See you Tuesday. See you Tuesday. He rode off. Evie stood in the parking lot for a long moment. Then she drove home. That evening, Bryn noticed something different. You're glowing. What? You look different and happy. Really happy. Evie thought about it. I helped someone today. Really helped. The way Bear helped me. How'd it feel? Like I'm not just surviving anymore. Like I'm actually living. 3 months later, day 365. 1 year exactly since Evie had first walked into Ruth Callahan Community Center. The center threw a celebration. Anniversary of its survival. Anniversary of Evie's transformation. The main room was decorated. Balloons, a banner that said 1 year stronger. 60 people came. Current clients, graduates, volunteers, donors. The wall of success photos had grown. 15 new faces added this year. Bryn was up there, completed the training program, working at a dental office now, had her own apartment. The young woman from the grocery store, her name was Charlotte, in the current training session, making progress. Tessa had graduated to a full-time accounting job, 3 kids stable, safe. Cole Patterson, the 17-year-old bear, had been mentoring, got his GED, starting trade school for welding. Story after story, life after life. Ruth stood at the front of the room, gave a speech. 12 years ago, I opened this center because I knew what it felt like to be desperate and alone. I wanted to create a place where people could find help without judgment, where they could see that their worst moment wasn't their final moment. This year tested us. We almost closed, but we didn't, because this community showed up. You showed up. You donated. You volunteered. You cared. And at the center of it all was one person who reminded us what this place is really about. She looked at Evie. Evelyn Frost walked through that door 1 year ago with $6 in her pocket and mountains of doubt. She was terrified, ashamed, certain she'd fail. But she didn't. She worked harder than anyone I have ever seen. She learned. She grew. She helped others even while she was struggling. And when we needed someone to fight for this place, she stood up. She told her story. She rallied this community. She rescued us. Ruth's voice cracked. I'm 63 years old. I've been doing this work for decades, and I'm tired. It's time for me to step back. Not leave, but step back. The board has voted. Effective next month, Evelyn Frost will become the executive director of Ruth Callahan Community Center. I'll stay on as founder emeritus, advisor. But this place needs young blood, new energy, and someone who understands the mission from the inside out. The room erupted in applause. Evie stood there frozen. Executive director. Her. The woman who'd counted pennies for formula a year ago. Ruth hugged her. It's yours now. Take care of it. Take care of them. I don't know if I can fill your shoes. You're not filling my shoes. You're walking your own path. You're exactly what this place needs. After the speeches, after the cake, after the photographs, the room slowly emptied. Evie found herself sitting on the front steps of the center, Finn asleep in her arms, 17 months old now, healthy, happy, loved. Bear walked out, sat down next to her. They sat in silence, comfortable, easy. You know what I think about sometimes, Bear said eventually. What if I'd walked out of that store 30 seconds earlier? Never seen you. What would have happened? Evie looked at her son. I don't know, but I'm grateful we'll never have to find out. You would have made it anyway. You're stronger than you think. Maybe, but it would have taken longer, been harder, cost more. She looked at him. You gave me a chance, that's all. Just a chance, I did the rest. But without that chance, I'd probably still be counting pennies. Or you'd have found another way. We'll never know. They watched the sunset, orange and pink painting in the sky. Your mom would be proud, Evie said, of who you became, what you do. Yours too. I wish she could see Finn, see this, see that I didn't completely fall apart. She sees, somehow, somewhere, she sees. Finn stirred, made a small sound, settled back into sleep. He's lucky, Bear said. Got a strong mama. He's got more than that. He's got family. She gestured to the building behind them. Everyone here, you, Ruth, this whole place, that's his family. Yeah, he does. Evie stood up. I should get him home. Bath, bed, the routine. Before you go. Bear stood too, reached into his vest pocket, pulled out something small. A photograph. He handed it to Evie. Black and white, faded. A woman, maybe 35, standing in front of a small house, tired but smiling. That's her, my mother, Rebecca. Evie looked at the photo, at the woman who'd shaped the man who'd saved her life. She was beautiful. She was strong, like you, worked herself to death trying to provide, but she never stopped trying, never gave up. I wish I could thank her. You just did. Every person you help, every life you change. That's her legacy. Through me, through you, through everyone we touch. He took the photo back, put it carefully in his pocket. See you Tuesday. See you Tuesday, Bear. He walked to his motorcycle, started it, the familiar rumble. Evie called out, Bear. He looked back. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. He shook his head, smiled. You were never invisible, Evie. You just needed someone to look. He rode off into the evening. Evie stood there, Finn in her arms, her car parked nearby, her apartment waiting, her job secured, her future bright. A year ago, she'd had nothing. Now she had everything that mattered. She walked to her car, buckled Finn into his car seat, drove home through familiar streets. At her apartment, she gave him a bath, read him a story, put him to bed. Then she sat at her kitchen table, opened her laptop, looked at the center's calendar. Tomorrow's schedule, 8 new intake appointments, 5 current clients in training, 3 job interviews to prep for, 2 emergency food requests, each one a life, each one a story, each one deserving of the same chance she'd been given. She thought about Charlotte, the young woman from the grocery store 2 months ago, about to graduate the training program. Already had 2 job offers. About Bryn, living independently now, volunteering at the center on weekends. About Tessa, saving money for a house, her kids thriving. About Cole, the angry 17-year-old who'd found purpose through Bear's mentoring. The ripple effect. One act of kindness spreading outward, touching dozens, hundreds, changing the world one person at a time. She pulled up the Facebook page. Save Ruth Callahan Community Center. 90,000 followers now, still growing. People shared stories there, their own grocery store moments, times they'd been helped, times they'd helped others. A movement, not loud, not flashy, but real. She started typing a new post. 1 year ago today, I walked into this building for the first time, scared, ashamed, certain I'd fail. Today, I'm the executive director, not because I'm special, but because people saw me, really saw me, and chose to help. If you're struggling right now, know this. Your worst moment is not your final moment. Help exists, community exists, hope exists. And if you're in a position to help someone else do it, don't wait, don't overthink it, just do it. You'll never know how much it matters. Thank you to everyone who saved this place, who rescued me, who continues to save lives every single day. This is what community looks like. This is what love looks like. This is what hope looks like. 1 year down, many more to come. She posted it, closed the laptop, tomorrow would be busy. They were expecting the young woman from the grocery store last week. Melissa something. She called to make an appointment. Scared voice, desperate, hopeful. Evie would be there, ready, with food, with resources, with hope. The way Ruth had been there for her, the way Bear had been there for her, the circle continuing forever. She checked on Finn one more time, sleeping peacefully, one arm thrown over his head, the other clutching his stuffed bear, a gift from Bear naturally. She kissed his forehead, whispered, "You're safe. You're loved. You're going to have a good life. I promise." In her bedroom, she looked at the wall. She'd hung a photo there from the celebration tonight. Her Ruth, Bear, Bryn, Tessa, Charlotte, Cole, all smiling, all survivors, all thrivers. And in the corner, she'd added something else. Small, framed, a $50 bill, not the original. She'd spent that on rent months ago, but a replacement, a reminder. Under it, a small plaque she'd made. It started here, November 2024. The circle continues. She turned off the light, lay down, closed her eyes. Tomorrow, someone would walk through the center's doors, counting pennies, counting regrets, counting the days until they fell through the cracks. And Evie would be there, ready to catch them, the way she'd been caught, the way everyone deserved to be caught. In Portland, Oregon, a different grocery store, a different evening, a different mother counting coins, a stranger watching, middle-aged woman, professional clothes, kind eyes. The mother came up short, started to cry. The stranger stepped forward, placed money on the counter, handed the mother a card. A community center in Portland. Someone did this for me once. Now it's my turn. The mother cried. Why? Because that's how it works. I received, now I give. Someday you'll do the same. In Chicago, in Atlanta, in Phoenix, in Seattle. Different stores, different strangers, different moments, but the same story, the same circle. Someone falling, someone catching, someone rising, someone reaching back to catch the next person. Over and over, spreading, growing, becoming something bigger than any one person. Becoming hope. In Bakersfield, California, Evelyn Frost slept peacefully, dreaming of grocery stores and heavy boots and gray eyes and the sound of a motorcycle fading into the night. Dreaming of her son, safe, loved, with a future. Dreaming of tomorrow, of the next person she'd help, the next life she'd change. Dreaming of a world where no one had to count pennies alone, where strangers looked, really looked, and chose not to walk away. That world was possible. She'd seen it, lived it, become it, and tomorrow she'd build it again. One person at a time, the circle continuing, forever, because that's what love does. It sees, it stays, it saves, and then it teaches others to do the same.